Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina. So I'm feeling much better over my cold or whatever it was, flu, COVID, I don't know what it was, but I was sick for weeks. I feel so much better. And the weather's gorgeous. I got out this morning with the pups and we took a nice long walk. And now that Lily's getting a little older, we have a wagon. So when she just basically refuses to move anymore, we put her in the wagon and it works out great. But today I'm here with just kind of catching up on what I've been reading for the month of October. And then we're also going to be looking at some Halloweeny reads. So what I did was I scoured my library shelves and found the books that I thought had the most Halloween vibe. But before we get there, I wanted to announce the winners for Code Red. So I'm sending a print copy to 3 winners plus a little Halloween treat. So I want to make sure I get that to you before Halloween. So let's just cut to that right now. So congratulations to the winners. And if you would please contact me at my email, reginashauntedlibrary@gmail.com. I will also remind you in the comments. Get in touch with me, send me your address, and I will ship out your prizes right away. So you get them in time for Halloween. Okay, so I thought about doing a little Halloween decorating in here, but because I am already like every day's Halloween, and I don't have that much space, really, on my shelves, I just pulled out my little Halloween friends. Joe got these for me, my husband Joe. And I always call him my husband. I just might as well say Joe. I think you guys knew who I'm talking about by now. Got me these a few years ago, and they're like these little stuffed animals, and they're not really animals. Well, some of them are. We got a cat here, a ghost, and 2 pumpkins. I guess they're different jack-o'-lanterns. Anyway, I just love these guys. I didn't name them yet, but maybe Cat Ghost and Jack 1 and Jack 2. It's very imaginative. Anyway, I have these with me today for Halloween, and I have some very Halloweeny looking books. But I also have some mail, so let's go ahead and look at this. All right, these I already opened. Last week I showed that my friend Patridge sent me a box of books that I'm still sifting through and finding room for, but he sent me a nice card because I also sent him something. So this is from a Hocus Pocus card, very nice. And then he sent me another little card with some musical notes. Very sweet. You know, I love getting mail. So I always include my address in the description so people can send me stuff. All right, and this is another letter or some kind of thing. I have not opened this yet, so we're doing it live. What is this? Okay, this is really cool. A writer sent me a submission of a short story for my new horror zine called Bookworms. I love getting the physical copy of the actual short story, and I put out a call for this submission. I will link it below in case you're interested. You don't have to be, it's not like a HorrorTube thing. You don't have to be a HorrorTuber. You don't have to have a BookTube channel or any kind of social media thing. It just have to be a writer or want to be a writer. Or writing is being a writer. Let's just put it out there before I talk myself into a corner. If you have a short story that you want to submit, please do. I have to tell you, I've already gotten like over 100 short stories. This is the first one I was actually sent a physical copy. And not that I'm going to try to favor those physical copies. It's just I know how I read. I give something that I hold in my hand a different type of attention, a better type of attention, to be honest, than if I'm reading off a computer screen. Sometimes I print them out and read them too, but I don't have the best printer and it's always running out of ink. So I've got 100 and I think at last count it was like 125 stories that I was sent. I've been reading a few every day just to try to keep up with the slush pile. It's never happened to me before, but this is the first time I've ever done something where I'm paying. It wasn't like volunteering for like the HorrorTube Anthology, which is for charity. So I've gotten a lot of great stories so far, and it's really going to be hard to decide because I think there's, in this first issue, of course, I plan more than one issue. I'm going to try to do 6 issues this year, starting, in the new year. I think I have room for 2 short stories in the first issue, so the competition is really fierce. So any edge you can give yourself, send in a copy. That's my pro tip. Okay, so on to what I've been reading. As you know, I've said on this channel before, I am an intuitive reader. It's really hard for me to do a TBR and stick to it. So I've stopped doing that as much. I still, like last month, I read vampires. That was a little easier because it was broad, like within the vampire subgenre. There's all kinds of choices. I really just read what I want to read. So I started off the month reading the collection by my friend Andrew Lyall from Grumpy Andrew's Horror House. I know him through BookTube, but also through the anthologies that I've been putting together. And just to mention, Local Haunts, don't forget, is coming out October 15th. You can still pre-order it now or wait until next week. And I'm very excited for that to come out. And I have been busy just putting the finishing touches on that anthology. So it's great that I was able to get it out for Halloween. So I can't wait to share that with everybody. It's really exciting. Some great stories in there. So if you don't know Andrew Lyall's channel, I'm going to link it below. You probably do know it because it's great. He's very popular. Great stuff on his channel. He really focuses a lot on film, like horror films. I'm going to link his short story collection, which is called 17 Stories of Death and Desire. It's excellent, absolutely great stuff. He's an amazing writer. I gave it 5 stars. I had read a couple of the stories, but most of it were completely new to me, and he really surprised me on some stuff. Like, he has a great range within what he writes, and his prose is excellent. So there were 2 stories in particular that I really liked about Vacations from Hell, which is one of my favorite themes. And the last story is very literary. His style is very literary and very impressive. It reminds me a lot of Poe. And I know that Poe is an influence. I think I knew that already, but I could tell from his writing that Poe is an influence. So it's great. Definitely check it out. His stories got me in the mood for reading Poe. So I read a couple short stories, classics. I think I started out with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. That is one of my favorite short stories because it really put me in the mood for autumn. To me, that is the most autumnal story ever written, and it's great, and I just love it. Of course, I've read it before, and then I watched the Johnny Depp film, the Tim Burton film, which is nothing like the short story, but it was still quite fun. I hadn't seen it for a while. Although Johnny Depp, he's not a schoolmaster in the movie, but he's an odd casting choice for Ichabod Crane because the way Irving describes him in the story is so detailed, and he's not a handsome guy, but of course Johnny Depp is, but he was really good at it. I love the visuals of Tim Burton's movies, and that one in particular really is great. So after Legend of Sleepy Hollow, I read a Poe story. I listened to this on audiobook, The Fall of the House of Usher. Of course, I loved it. Great story. I usually read Poe. I usually go back to always like The Telltale Heart, The Black Cat, The Raven, of course, The Cask of Amontillado, but I wanted to read The Fall of the House of Usher because I hadn't read it or listened to it in years and really enjoyed it. That's definitely a slow burn, very literary and very involved, and it made me want to actually go back and reread it because I know I missed some stuff. And then the other short story classic I listened to and read along with was Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Again, I think I read that in school. I'm sure I remembered it, but it was like, oh, so good. And that really got me in the mood for autumn, too. It's all about witchcraft, and I feel like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery got a lot of influence from that story because it's all about a community and kind of the paranoia of a community, like discovering that your neighbors are part of a coven, or maybe you just imagined it. Who knows? It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And it gets into the whole like Salem thing, which of course I love. So that's what I've been doing. Oh, and then I'm halfway through 12 Nights at Rotterhouse, a haunted house story. The book is really good, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm only halfway through, so it's like each section is one night, so I just got to night 6, so I've got 6 to go. So when I finish that, I will report back, but I'm enjoying it. Okay, so now on to some Halloweeny reads. So I pulled these off my shelves, basically based on the covers, the colors, if they reminded me of Halloween or gave me a real Halloween vibe. And I will probably try to read some of these, although, like I said, I'm just moving with my intuitive reading through the month of October, but you never know. So this is Halloween Party by R.L. Stein. I have 2 of these. I think they're the same story, different covers. I prefer this jack-o'-lantern cover. I'm going to do close-ups of all of these so you can see. But yeah, I have 2 of these. I have read this one. Here is another jack-o'-lantern cover. I feel bad because I started this book, I think, either last Halloween and maybe the year before, and never finished it. I didn't DNF it. I just kind of lost track. That happens sometimes. This is called Torments by Lisa W. Cantrall, and it's a great cover. This is another book that I've always told myself, I'm going to read it this year, and I haven't yet. Maybe I will. Who knows? I will read it someday. This is Usher's Passing by Robert R. McCammon, and everyone tells me what a great book this is. I think I've read one other book that he's written. Of course, it wouldn't be Halloween without Autunmcrow by Cameron Chaney. That cover by Cameron Rubique is brilliant. It just, that is Halloween. I'm really thrilled to see that Cameron is back. He had a great resurrection last week, and if you haven't seen it yet, I'll link it below. He's back. Cameron's coming out with a new book, and I'm really excited to read that. So just love that, and this is just a perfect autumn read. Here's another one that I've told myself I'm going to read. All right, I probably should just read all of these for this month, but we'll see how that goes. This is called Dark Harvest by Norman Patridge. Gotta love the cover. Of course, I've read this at least twice, maybe 3 times. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. That cover could not get more of a Halloween vibe, and it has like a really cool texture. I found this in a bookstore a couple summers ago. And last, but not least, is one of my favorite short story anthologies, The Dark Descent, The Evolution of Horror. It's pretty thick, and there's all kinds of horror in here, from classics to Stephen King and beyond. And of course, this Halloween orange and black cover just screams Halloween. This is something that most nights out of the year I have by my bedside to just pick out any kind of short story. It's really, really great stuff. I was thrilled to find this in a thrift store. I think it's out of print now, but if you can get a copy of this, highly recommend it. So those are my Halloweeny picks from my shelf. Please let me know in the comments below if you have any favorite Halloweeny stories that you love to read this time of year. I would love to hear your thoughts. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for stopping by my haunted library, and I'll see you soon. Bye!